Welcome back. It's still Morning Rush on Metro Television.
Yep.
This morning we'll be talking to Dr. Prince OSEI via Zoom. He's not in the studio with us this morning. And we are talking about peptic ulcer, which is commonly known to us as stomach ulcer, if I'm right. Yeah. I mean, it's one of the most discomfortable experience you ever have. Yeah. Well, so, Dr. Prince OSEI, if you can hear me this morning, good morning. How are you?
I'm very well. I'm very well.
What are you doing there that you didn't come to the studio?
You know, we are currently at the Volta regional cloud, to be specific, and as part of the 30th anniversary for MEDI Prostate Center.
Okay.
As I mentioned some time ago, we'll be having free screenings, and currently we are at Aplao for today. Tomorrow we'll be at Akachi. Okay. Then on Saturday we'll be at Hope. So that will be the Volta region tour for free screening. Yeah.
Great. Just remember to bring me Abolo and Kalami. That's all.
Oh, definitely, and that small fish.
Yeah, 1,000.
Okay.
Anyway,
yeah.
No, this morning we are looking at stomach ulcer. Also peptic ulcer, yes. And my first question would be, what is the fastest way to solve stomach ulcer? If there's like
when it comes to peptic ulcer disease, treating it or managing it has to do with the individual. You know, dieting plays a major role in it because there are certain foods that you eat that can aggravate the pains. Mostly, we advise that people with peptic ulcer should cut down pepper intake and spicy food intake in general, because that could aggravate the pains. Because, you know, ulcer is a sore. And when you have a sore on your skin, you are able to dress it, you are able to manage it well. But when it goes into your internal body, it becomes a bit difficult to solve that particular pain. So people come to the hospital with recurrent peptic ulcer disease, and sometimes they even feel like it's not completely treated. Like people think that you cannot treat peptic ulcer disease, but it's one of the conditions that can be completely treated. Just that sometimes because of our health, our lifestyle, the things we eat, the things we take in, it sometimes causes the pains to be worse, even after taking some medication to completely treat it. Yeah. So with the management, I'll say the individual play a major role. The hospitals, we can manage it by giving medications, and that can cause the sores to heal and all that. But if the individual doesn't manage his or her diet well, doesn't manage the lifestyle well, it becomes difficult to completely treat it. Yeah.
Doc, I'm so glad you mentioned that it can be treated, because growing up, most of the things, the stories you hear, they say you grow with it and it will be with you. For someone like me who spent 3 years in senior high school as a day student, one of the bad habits I developed was not to eat on time. That was a very bad habit. And every time my mom kept saying, oh, you get ulcer in the university, you get ulcer in the university. Well, I didn't really get it, but is someone not eating on time for a long period of time a general cause for stomach ulcer?
Okay, so when it comes to peptic ulcer, I keep using the word peptic ulcer because it's not limited to the stomach. It can be either stomach ulcer or duodenal ulcer. So you can have the ulcer in the stomach cavity itself, or it can happen in the duodenum. So the two of them combined is what we call the peptic ulcer. The symptoms are mostly the same, so you can't really differentiate what you have unless you have an endoscopy done. So when you take in anything, when you eat anything, and the first point of call is your mouth, it passes through your esophagus into the stomach. So in the stomach, that is where the digestive juices acts on the food that you've eaten. And the stomach is known to produce one of the strongest enzymes that digest the food, the hydrochloric acid. It's a form of acid that softens the food that you've eaten to make it liquid form so that the digestive juices can work on it. So when you are not eating for quite some time, the digestive juices will still be releasing, especially if you are not eating and you are chewing gum. You know, when you are chewing anything, the body tends to feel as if you are eating. So if you are chewing gum, you tend to produce more saliva because once you are chewing, the body feels like you are eating. So it needs to make the food softer for you. So you tend to salivate a lot. Whilst you are swallowing the saliva too, once the saliva gets into your abdomen, it will feel as if there is food. So the abdomen will start secreting this hydrochloric acid to digest the food.
Okay.
Once there is no, the hydrochloric acid will now tend to erode the gastric lining. So there is a lining within your abdomen which prevents the acid from acting on the stomach itself. But once there is no food in the abdomen and the acid is being produced, what will happen is it will cause erosion or eroding of the gastric lining, and that can lead to ulcer. So that is one form of getting the ulcer. So that's why we mostly say that if you don't eat, you develop ulcer. If you don't eat on time, you develop ulcer. Those times the body will be producing the acid and it needs the food to work on it so that it wouldn't cause any problem. Another way to get the peptic ulcer is through a bacteria that is called the Helicobacter pylori or H. pylori, as most of us term it. When you go to the hospital, there is a test that we do to check the presence of the H. pylori in your system. So the H. pylori too is a bacteria that mostly lives in the gut, the GI tract. And when they are there, they can also eat the lining. I'm using the word eat because so that we can understand. They can eat the lining of the abdomen and it can cause sores within the stomach lining. So the H. pylori is one of the causes. Another thing too is taking what we call non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. These are the major painkillers that we know, the brufens, the diclofenacs, the naproxen. Most of the painkillers on the markets are non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs. What that one does is when you take it, it prevents a hormone that we call prostaglandin from being released. And there's the prostaglandin that helps us to feel pain. So once the prostaglandin is not released, you wouldn't be feeling the pain. So you're having pain, you take something to prevent the prostaglandin from being released. So you wouldn't feel the pain. But that same prostaglandin is what helps the stomach lining. That is what protects the stomach lining. So once it's not being released, it means that the stomach wouldn't be having any lining to protect you from the acid. So now the acid can work on it and it can cause the erosion. So these are the major things that can cause peptic ulcer. Either you are not eating well, which can cause the ulcer, either you are having H. pylori, or either you are taking these painkillers that can also cause the prostaglandin from being released. It can also lead to you having peptic ulcer disease.
Okay, great. I mean, I love that this topic has come up. I don't have because I'm not sure how I ever get peptic ulcer. But for those who have it, what is the way to go about it? Do they have to go see a doctor for that? Or when they feel the pains in their stomach, they need to just know that it's ulcer because they've not been eating? Let's just go through that quickly.
It's not always the case. And you mentioned that because you are eating well, you wouldn't be getting the ulcer. It's not always the case.
Hey.
There are people who eat well, but they can still get ulcer, yes. Because with the causes that we mentioned, it's not only starvation. The H. pylori is there, the painkillers, the NSAIDs use is also there. So once you are not doing one thing doesn't mean that you are totally free. So staying away from all these three things, eating well, not taking these painkillers, and also with the bacteria, sometimes it's difficult to stay away from it because you may pick up from the food, you may pick up from the surroundings and all that. Yeah. That's why you need to be checked. And you can only know that you have peptic ulcer by going to the hospital. Medimosis clinic, we do those tests, the H. pylori test, We can do that. You can also do an endoscopy to check if the source of the sore itself, where the sore is located. You'll be able to do an endoscopy to find out where the sore is located. And medimosis, as Nanaya rightly said, people think that ulcer cannot be treated, but medimosis have been successfully treating people with peptic ulcer. People come to the hospital, and because they've been to so many facilities, they feel like it wouldn't go, or the condition will be there, but they come to medimosis and they get treated because of the medications that we use. With these, most of these antibiotics that are used, because of the resistance, the H. pylori has grown resistant to most of these antibiotics. So we have developed a herbal drug which is multi-drug resistant. Like the bacteria wouldn't be able to resist it. And people who take it get relief from peptic ulcer disease. Yeah, so it can be treated when you get the right facility, when you get the right medication. It can, and the right lifestyle too. Let me add that, because most people who come we take time, who come to our facility, we take time to advise them on the dieting in particular, because if you don't get the right dieting, it will be difficult. So if you're having any stomach discomfort, if you're having any peptic ulcer condition, medimosis is the right place for you.
All right, Doc, we need to go. We need to go. So
we'll have a part two.
We'll have a part two of this, yes, when you come back from your trip. So thank you so much for speaking to us this morning, all the way from Akachi in the Volta region. Bye-bye. So that's Dr. Prince Joseph from medimosis. Do well to go to all their branches across the country and, of course, call the numbers so that you could also reach